They told us at the academy that the first real deployment changes you. They said it the way instructors say things they believe, but cannot explain. A steadies and no follow-up. I remember thinking they meant the fear, the noise of a combat burn maybe, the weight of live ordnance on the rails. They didn't mean any of that. They meant that you go out into the dark, and at some point the dark looks back, and afterward you carry that gaze for the rest of your life. I was 23, junior weapons officer, third of 4 assigned to the Fian's Resolute Scar, a wedge-class destroyer, out of Halcyon Station, 11 months in commission. Resolute Scar was not a beautiful ship. She was angular and blunt, built to take punishment, and she had taken some already. The starboard dorsal plating still showed the ghost of a weld line from a dockyard repair she'd needed before my time. I used to run my fingers along it during quiet watches, reading the ship's history by touch. We were 3 weeks out of Halcyon on a commerce protection assignment when the Resolute Scar, dark, reactor at minimum, drives cold, every active emission killed. We drifted inside a debris field at the outer rim of what the charts called contested space, a polite label for territory that something else had decided belonged to it. The Verakhi had been a name on a threat assessment briefing until the week before, when they stopped being a name. They had ambushed convoy Kestrel 7 in this same corridor 4 months earlier and taken a bulk freighter apart with coordinated hit-and-run strikes. The analysts described them as predator evolved, hunter pack tacticians, ambush specialists, comfortable in the dark. They communicated in tight band, bursts too brief to decode, and they chose their ground the way a patient animal chooses its ground, is to say they chose it long before their prey arrived. Captain Oren had chosen our ground first. I didn't know that at the time. I was monitoring my board, weapons cold, safeties engaged, indices dark, and watching the passive scan feed with the particular quality of attention you learn when you understand that you are not allowed to breathe loudly. Convoy Kestrel 9 was making its transit 400 kilometers off our port bow. 3 freighters and a light escort. The escort was running visible, which was the plan. We were the part of the plan nobody was supposed to see. The Verakhi arrived at the 22nd minute of our watch. Dramatically, not in a flash of displaced light, or a formation rising out of the dark. They were simply not present, and then they were. 6 contacts. The passive array resolved them slowly, the way a photograph develops, detail accumulating until I could read their silhouettes. Triangular hold, the sensor nodes clustered at the forward points, like the sensory clusters, of something that had evolved to track prey by smell and heat. They moved with the loose, confident geometry of hunters who believed they had already won. 11 minutes. That was how long Captain Oren let it run. I understand now what he was doing. He was watching them complete their arc, reading their tactic, waiting until the geometry was unambiguous, until there was no other interpretation for what they were doing, and no action they could take that we had not already accounted for. He was not being cautious. He was being precise. There is a difference, and the difference matters, and I did not fully understand it at 23. At the 11-minute mark, he said 4 words over the ship-wide circuit. His voice was level. He could have been announcing a change in meal rotation. Light her up all. The Resolute Scar came alive beneath my feet. The sound was not loud. It was deep, a resonance more felt than heard. The drive cycling from cold silence to full output in 11 seconds. Every sensor array we carried went active simultaneously. Every targeting solution locked and populated my board in a cascade of amber numerals. We had been a piece of debris drifting in the dark, and then we were not. We were a kilometer of hardened warship, guns hot, drive burning, sitting inside the Verakhi formation at a range that made the word ambush belong to us now instead of them. 5 seconds. The Verakhi formation held absolutely still. I remember watching the contacts on my board and thinking they had malfunctioned, that the passive array had frozen. They hadn't. The contacts were real and they were motionless, and I know now that what I was seeing was the moment of recognition. Fear. Exactly. Something older than fear. The moment a predator realizes it has been outpredated. The Verakhi flagship moved on the 6th second, toward us, toward the convoy. It was a reflex. I have spent years trying to decide if it was malice or instinct, and I no longer believe the distinction is meaningful. The flagship's forward weapons array discharged into the lead freighter. A single full output. Strike. The kind meant to end something quickly so the hunter can run. The freighter's hull breached along the ventral third. They got their kill. Then the resolute Scar got hers. I fired on the flagship at Captain Oren's order and destroyed it in 2 salvos. The remaining 5 contacts broke formation, the elegant predator pack geometry dissolving into individual panic flight vectors, each one choosing a different departure angle, which is what a pack does when the hierarchy collapses. Tracked them to the edge of our engagement range and let them go. We were not there to hunt. We were there to make a point, and the point had been made. Captain Oren was dead by then. The retaliatory shot from the Verakhi flagship, the reflex kill strike aimed at the freighter, had skimmed our port bow on the way out. Our point defense killed most of it. Most. A fragment of the discharge, stripped of its coherence, but still carrying enough energy to matter, found the forward observation blister, where Oren had been standing for the entire 11 minutes watching with his own eyes what his instruments were telling him. He had wanted to see them himself. That was the kind of man he was. I took the con at 31 years old. No, 23. I keep doing that. I was 23. I took the con because I was the ranking officer in a working condition, and because someone had to, and because the convoy had a hull breach that needed coordinating, and because the Verakhi were still on our passive array, retreating. Except one. One contact had not run. The smallest of the 6. A scout-class hull, a third our displacement, had decelerated and was holding position at the edge of our active sensor range, not closing, not fleeing, holding my weapons officer, junior to me. All of them were junior to me now. Had a firing solution populated and was waiting for my word. I did not give it. The scout transmitted once. A single burst, tight band, the same brevity they always used. 2 seconds of signal that our comms array recorded and our translation systems could parse. Then it jumped. The space where it had been was empty, and then it was just space again, and the passive array had nothing left to track. I have thought about that transmission for a long time. 26 years as of this telling. I ran it through every system we had on the return transit, and through better systems later, at Halcyon, at the Admiralty, at 3 different universities that had people paid to think about exactly this. Nobody ever cracked it. The best interpretation, and it is only an interpretation, offered by a xenolinguistics fellow at Meridian, who admitted she was guessing, was that it was a unit designation, the scout's own identifier, not a threat, not a surrender, a name. I think about that sometimes. The idea that the first coherent thing a Verakhi said to us, the opening word of whatever relationship followed, was simply, I am here, I exist, I am a thing with a name. We said the same thing, I suppose, just louder. Just with the drives lit and the guns hot, and 11 minutes of silence first, and a man who chose to see it with his own eyes because he believed that what you witness yourself, you carry more honestly. The freighter's crew survived. 22 of them in emergency suits, with hull trauma and cold and a long wait, but they survived. Kestrel 9 made its transit. The corridor stayed open. I still have the weldline scar on my right palm from where I gripped the conrail when we jumped for home. I don't know why I gripped it that hard. I think I was trying to hold on to something that had already passed. The resolute scar. And I had both been changed by what we had seen, and neither of us would ever quite explain it to anyone who hadn't been there, in the dark, waiting, listening to a predator civilization discover 5 seconds of silence what we were. That is what they don't tell you at the academy. Not about the fear, not about the noise. They don't tell you that the moment you are seen, truly seen, by something that has never seen anything like you, is a moment that belongs to both of you, forever, and costs more than you expect, and is worth exactly that much.